Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Ask the Expert with the International Association of Women. My name is Megan Bizzuto. Excited to be back here again today with our session on identity, purpose, and leadership after corporate. If you are new to this platform, hello, we stream live on LinkedIn, so anyone is welcome to pop into the conversation. Let us know in the comments where you're joining from if you have any questions. We really love the engagement here on LinkedIn. These conversations are designed to be real, practical, and grounded in the experiences that don't always get talked about openly. And this topic today is one that I know will resonate with so many of you, especially those who have achieved that level of success, but are starting to ask the deeper question of what's next and who am I beyond this? Leaving corporate or even evolving beyond a long-held role can feel both exciting and unsettling at the same time. You've built something, you've proven yourself, and then suddenly you're standing at a point where the path isn't as clearly defined. And today's conversation is about that moment. I'm so excited to introduce Susan Salter. Susan has spent 30 years in corporate before realizing that despite her success, something wasn't aligned. She describes that moment as being the curve, that fork in the road where you can either continue on the same path or choose something different. And she chose to curve. What I love about her work is that she now helps ambitious, successful women navigate that exact transition from achiever to creator. Her clients aren't starting from scratch, they're accomplished, but they're also often exhausted, frustrated, or feeling disconnected from themselves. Susan helps them elevate their self-image, step into confidence, and create a life where success and fulfillment go hand in hand. Susan, welcome. I am so glad you're here today. I'm excited for this conversation. So, thank you for joining me on Ask the Expert.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. And thank you to those in the comments. I love seeing all of you in the chat, so keep that coming. Susan, I want to start right at that moment of transition that I just talked about. Why can leaving corporate success feel both freeing but also disorienting?
So I think a lot of times when women decide to leave corporate, it's a scary time, right? Using my own example, I was in corporate, like you said, for 30 years. It was a routine. It was something I was used to. I could do it in my sleep and all of that. And when you make the decision to leave corporate, a lot of women, especially now, are leaving corporate for that freedom. They want that extra freedom of their time. They want to own their time, etc. But that's also carries a lot of uncertainty. And, who am I outside of that corporate job? I'm used to no matter what level you're at in corporate, you're kind of told what to do, right? And when you leave corporate, it's like, okay, it's just me. What do I do? I don't know where to go. What do I want next? There's a lot of unanswered questions.
So yeah, I think for so many people I've come across, right, they expect it to feel like relief, like, okay, I'm on the other
Right.
side. And it does come, but there's also something else that shows up. Um, what do you think, what identity shift catches most women off guard after they leave corporate roles?
Yeah, a lot of it is, when we're in corporate and we've worked really hard for the success that we've had, and we've sort of climbed that proverbial ladder that comes with a lot of titles along the way. And when you leave, and this was my experience, I was a senior director when I left corporate. And once I left corporate, it's like, oh, wow, I don't have that title anymore. You're very proud of that title, and it carries a lot of accomplishments, and it carries a lot of weight, if you will. And when you leave corporate, you no longer have that. I went from Susan Salter, senior director, blah 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 blah, to okay, I'm Susan Salter, but what does that mean? right? Because when I left corporate, I didn't even really know yet what I wanted to do. So, you know, the identity shifts that catch you off guard is, you know, the ego, the self-doubt, the uncertainty. They're, you know, pretty heavy, but that's usually what will follow.
Thank you for sharing that transparency because I think that's one of the things so many people struggle with, but often they see the shiny on the outside, right? It's like, oh, you left corporate and now you get to do your thing, but there are those identity shifts that catch us off guard that we don't always speak so openly about. So thank you for putting
Right.
that out there. Um,
Absolutely.
there is a question in the chat that I want to circle to really quick because we talked about in your intro, I talked about what you call the curve, and she's asking what's the difference between curve and pivot. If you can explain the curve a little bit more.
Yeah, so the curve is not necessarily a pivot. It's really at that point in time where, again, you've reached the success, but there's that term, you know, is that all there is? So you're still ambitious. You still, you know, probably don't have thoughts of retiring. You're still ambitious. You're still, you know, accomplished, but it's not where you hit the brick wall and you either go left or right. It's not that stark of a turn. It's really a pause, right? So it's a softer turn. It's, do I stay here? It's like a moment of recognition, right? It's, do I stay here? And if I do, what needs to change so that I don't feel so tied up in working 60 hours a week and all the pressures? Maybe I want to spend a little bit more time with my family. Maybe I want to repair relationships that kind of were broken because I was working so much. So it's really a time of pause rather than necessarily a pivot. Now, a pivot may come from that, but you're really at that time where it's like, all right, something needs to change, but I don't know yet what it is.
Mhm, mhm. Thank you for clarifying that.
Mhm,
Now, one thing that I see often is women step away from corporate because they've reached a point of burnout or they've realized that they don't have the also say balance or alignment between work and life,
mhm.
but then somehow they end up more overwhelmed. Why do so many women leave corporate but end up more exhausted in their wherever they're going?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that really weighs heavy is lack of clarity. So again, you go from this very structured environment where you're pretty much told what to do, you have goals, you have all your checklists, everything, all of that, to this sort of white space where you're not really sure what the future holds. You're now responsible for you and you alone. You know, in the beginning, you can build a team later or whatever you decide, but you're kind of alone when you're used to having this big support team within your, you know, your corporate job. So, you know, maybe, and also maybe you came from a toxic environment. So there could be, I mean, let's be honest, there could be some healing that you need to do, or some, you know, going back and deciding what it is you don't want versus what it is you do want. So determining the path forward, you know, maybe you want to find your passion, your purpose, whatever the case may be. You want to strive for something else, but you also need to take time to kind of heal the wounds that maybe came up in your corporate job, especially for women.
Absolutely. So Janelle has a question here in the chat. So Janelle says, after years of leading teams and delegating to entire departments, stepping into a role where you're responsible for everything can feel overwhelming. How do you navigate so many priorities at once, particularly in areas where your expertise is limited, like building your website? And Janelle, I think she recently transit had this big transition from corporate to entrepreneurship. So she's living this right now. It's very relevant to
Oh, okay.
her what she's working through. But the question was, how do you navigate so many priorities at once, particularly in areas where your expertise is limited, like building your website?
Yeah, so what I did when I left corporate and started my own business, I knew that I needed guidance because my background in corporate was compliance and risk management. It wasn't sales, it wasn't marketing, it was none of that. So first, obviously, I did the training and got the certifications once I decided to go into coaching. So that was important to me. And then it was like, okay, I have a business now. Now what do I do? Right? What are the things that I need to do? So I hired a business coach. I hired someone who specialized in working with people, women like me, or people like me who are leaving corporate, starting their own coaching consulting business. And they really helped me do the basics, the foundation, which
Mhm.
was extremely important because, kind of like Janelle, you're very overwhelmed. You have a lot of things on you. It's like, what do I do first? There's so much to do. What do I do first? So I know that I needed somebody to help me decide those priorities and then point me in, connect me with someone like a website developer or someone who could guide me on social media and all of those types of things. So I would
Mhm.
say ask for help, get someone to guide you along the way, and then connect with people who can do things. There's a way you can do it that isn't as expensive, where they can help you set up the foundation to get
Mhm.
you going. What you don't want to do, which I did in the beginning, is you sit and you're stuck, right? Because you just feel, again, so overwhelmed that you don't know what to do first. The most important thing to do is to keep moving one small step every day on a consistent basis. So ask for help.
Yeah, because you don't have the boss saying there's deadline, right? You've shifted
Exactly.
into being your own boss, and suddenly things are really overwhelming. You don't know where to start, so you
Right.
put in analysis paralysis, right? We can sit up all
Exactly.
day and make up reasons for, but small steps are steps, and just
Yes.
keep going. Um, Thank you for taking that question. So,
Sure.
Susan, when we look at identity habits from corporate, like I
Mhm.
can think back to when I was in corporate and there were a lot of different things tied to what I was doing every day. What are some of the identity habits that no longer serve business owners?
So when I look at the difference between my corporate job moving into entrepreneurship, it's really moving from managing success to designing your life. You now have this opportunity to do whatever it is that you want to do. Um, I would look at your skill set. What are you really good at? And that's exactly what I did. When I looked back and I said, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? It was like, well, I've been a leader for 25 years and I loved leading my team. I loved mentoring other young women coming up. What can I? And I just started going down sort of the rabbit hole and made a list of, things that I was really good at and things that, and of those things that I was really good at, what are the things that I really liked to do? And that's important. You now have the opportunity to do something that you love, not something that's forced, not something that you're told to do. You get to do what you want to do. So take the time to decide what that is. So, again, that's the designing your life part. The other
Mhm.
thing that I would say is in corporate, we're so conditioned to be guided by performance. And I would recommend that you shift from performance to presence
Hmm.
because you can't hide in an office anymore. You can't, you have to, you are your, I am the face of my business. And based on the nature of my business, it's all about connecting and building relationships and people trusting me. So I had to step out of my comfort zone and in you know really take on social media and have a presence. So moving from performance to presence is key.
Absolutely. So I want to, for our listeners who are women that are either have already transitioned or looking to transition from corporate leadership to entrepreneurship, you say there's three key strategies to help that make that shift successful. Can you take us through those three key strategies?
Yeah, so the three key strategies once you transition out of corporate is, again, what I talked about before. Take time and pause. You don't have to necessarily jump into anything quickly. Your natural inclination is going to be, oh my gosh, I have to set the website up. I have to do all the things. I have to make money. I have to do this, and while that's all very, very important, it's also important to take the time to think about what you want to do your research, start asking around, find other people who are doing what you want to do, set up conversations with them. And I wouldn't, unless it's a unique situation, I would not recommend quitting your corporate job until you are at least in the ballpark of what you want to do next, right? You definitely want to be able to take the time to think about it, and you're still getting your salary, right? So you can kind of start putting some money away to, afford getting website help and all of those things. The other thing I would say, besides taking time to pause, definitely doing your research and definitely asking for help. And the other big thing, which is huge, is mindset.
Mm.
Do the inner work. Really take the time, because when you go from a corporate high level pressure job, all the accolades, the big salary, all of those things, to starting your own business, it does where you have all kinds of doubts coming in. Who am I? Who's going to buy from me? You have all these, I'm not enough. All those limiting beliefs will definitely start coming up. So do the mindset work. Make sure you have a good, solid morning routine so that you can set yourself up for success. I started meditating. I started reading personal development books, something I never did in corporate because I didn't have the time, or I didn't think I needed it. But really take the mental part is huge.
Yeah, and I love that that's part of the plan, because I do see there's so much that changes. Like when you leave corporate, no matter how successful you are, there's you're receiving that input and feedback from all over the place. And then
Right.
when you're on your own, those voices can sneak up really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Am I doing the right thing? It's really interesting how the mind can quickly go into that place of, well, maybe I should just go back to corporate.
Right, right. Because even though corporate you've left for a reason, it is stability. There is a regular paycheck coming in. You have health benefits. You have all of that. And entrepreneurship is such a roller coaster ride. It really is. It can have high highs and it can have low lows. And you just have to, again, what motivates you when you are an entrepreneur and you own your own business is the passion, is the mission that has to drive you.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. There was so much honesty shared in this conversation. I appreciate the vulnerability and really sharing openly that transition, because the leaving corporate, there's a whole identity thing that's happening, but it's
Mhm.
also, while it might look like, hey, it's great, I cut the string to corporate and I'm doing the thing I love, it is not without challenge. So thank you for
No,
sharing.
you are
For
welcome.
all of those watching, thank you for all of the comments in the chat today. I always love hearing from all of you in the chat, so thank you for that. Um, if you have additional questions, you can always connect with Susan. We have her information linked right up in this post. Go connect, reach out to her directly. Um, Obviously she has a lot of knowledge and insight to share. So go check that out. We will be back on Thursday with another Ask the Expert. We have lots of great things going on inside the IAW community this week as well. I appreciate all of you for being here. Susan, appreciate you for showing up and sharing your story. And
So
we
much.
will see you back here soon. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you.